Hello, welcome back, RPG community, YouTubers, whoever, random guy. What I have today is a review for Jade Regent, Book 4. I kind of wanted to wait to do this one, but I decided to kind of speed up the process on this, just because all of my collective thoughts are kind of with me at this moment. It's kind of like Frank the Tank in Old School when he has to make that speech in that debate clip. I come up with a lot of brilliant things and I just kind of lose it, and then I'm just lost. I don't know what the hell happened. So it's kind of what I've been experiencing this last couple days with making lots of homebrew features, mechanics specifically, with Book 4. And I gotta say something. Book 4 is just as damn important as Book 1. It's basically Book 1. I mean, you're on one side of the continent, Book 1 through 3. Book 4, it is a complete culture shock. You are being introduced and exposed to a wide panoramic view, different foods and such, different cultural adaptations, traditions and such that are unusual, foreign, unique, creatures, specific races, dealings and such. It's just completely different. It's just as important as Book 1. And I've read a couple forums, a couple reviews on Book 4, and people are just complaining about it. Oh, a dungeon, what the hell? The whole book's a dungeon. I don't understand it at all. It's not just a dungeon. There's quite a bit of exploration. There's opportunity for a sandbox sort of feel to it. There's just a huge introduction in the beginning, which just kind of gives you a culture slap and just kind of awakens people, revitalizes kind of the adventure exploration part of it, and just identifying with unique characters, learning different trends in the culture and such. I mean, in Book 3 or Book 2 there was the Ulfin one, and there was a little bit of that as well, but really Book 4 presents it spot on. And yes, there is a dungeon. It's cleverly hidden, and comes as a great surprise for those that are not expecting it, for those that are not prepared for it, equipment-wise, spell-wise, and such. So just to kind of, before I just create 20 minutes of just random, kind of a sloppy all over the place, let me kind of go through the book as it's presented. Talk about that. Talk about things that I've introduced to it. It's really weird. Jade Regent. It's surprising to me because I made the group pick which adventure path they wanted to do. Oddly enough, the one guy that doesn't show up for it is the final vote on it, and we picked this one. And I can tell that I am, as well as all the other players, are just incredibly surprised on how this turned out. I mean, yes, I read it. I mean, not religiously. I didn't examine everything, but I kind of went over the generalization of it all. Some of the kind of players I think had a sort of feel for what it could be, but it just surprises us turn after turn. More so for me. I mean, for them as well, but I'm the one that experiences every fucking side to it, so sorry for the swearing there. But let's just go up to the very beginning here. I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on this because this book is just as important, or even more so important, than the first one. A lot of stuff is from Richard Pett, if I'm pronouncing his name right, but it's just great. Fantastic. Okay, I'm gonna swear. Fucking fantastic. Sorry. No, I'm not. Okay. Kind of go through here. They give you some inspirations on what things you can watch. You know, some people may be turned off by the Oriental flair of it all. I had one guy that wasn't kind of so sure of it, and he kind of made a decision that he didn't like it. Not really based on anything. Then he kind of found out how it changed, how wrong he was, when he saw just how awesome it was and how cool it could be. But they give some inspirations on things that you can watch. I didn't really look at this list ahead of time. I didn't prepare for it ahead of time. I mean, I watched some things like Hidden Tiger, Crouching, whatever, Dragon, and some other ones like Last Samurai and some various other ones. I mean, even anime, I've watched some of that, so I kind of have a feel for it. I mean, I'm not an expert in it. I mean, yeah, I've maybe been to one anime convention, but it was very brief and very, very strange for me, but I tried it. But as far as a movie that I kind of keenly was aware of and associated some of this with was 13 Assassins. Really good movie. I haven't seen it. Check it out. I mean, there's a long build-up in the beginning, but you get well rewarded for your patience at the end, or through the next half of the last part of the movie, where it's just very explosive, very violent, very intense. The choreograph for the swordplay and action sequences, and just having just mobs of people on the street and just watching it all unfold is fantastic. It's like just watching fireworks go off, and it's just non-stop. And you keep expecting the end, and it just keeps delivering around every corner. So, as far as inspirations, going with what they suggest, that's actually one that's really good. But finally, you finally get out of the frozen wasteland, the North Pole, the whatever the hell that place was called, Crown of the World or something. Finally get out of there. My party spent within their timeline, not our real timeline, but in the character's world, they spent 5 months. I think it said in there you could spend anywhere between 4 to 6 or even possibly a year. So we didn't do too bad. There's even a thing online that shows on the Paizo form that tells you how long, how many miles it takes for the trip. So if you want to calculate that, if you didn't calculate it before, and your players are kind of wanting an explanation for it, you can give them a time frame using that system where it tells you how long it should take and how many miles it took for this part, this part, this part, and finally gives you a grand total of how long. You could use that if you want, or kind of make up your own, or try to calculate it on your own. But finally, you get out of the crown of the world. You enter the lands of Tianzia, and you immediately come upon the city of Ordu Aganahai. What a great place. The nation of Hangul, horse lords and such. Just the way they speak and they pronounce themselves, and the way they're bowing constantly and trying not to offend. It's just a great atmosphere. It completely takes your PCs by surprise. They're off guard by all of this. The flavor, the culture of it all is just very intoxicating. It's exciting. It's fresh. So a very well-dressed man prostrates himself quite literally before the PCs many, many, many times. And you can kind of practice how you want to speak to them. Honored guests, welcome, welcome. 3 times welcomes more. Please ignore these slithering worms before your feet. Ha 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 ha. You know, you can get into all kinds of different accents and such. Hopefully you don't try to... hopefully you don't offend anybody by using some of these. You don't want to get into like a South Park thing, or, you don't want to get in the shitty walk. You might offend some people. So, but just try to kind of play the role as best you can and represent Tian culture and the people and such. So eventually you're invited to partake in a dinner or meet with the Golden One, the Prince, who wishes to hear of your strange adventure in strange lands in a strange time of the year that no one should be traveling since it's the off-season. The most difficult time of travel. He wishes to hear your story. So you go with the royal advisor, Chua, to meet Prince Batisakar. If I'm saying that right, I'm sorry. But it's funny because if there's someone in your party who's very charismatic looking, female persuasion perhaps, Chua will offer you a special gift, a black rose. There's no fire like the fire in the souls of the women of far lands. Beauty is the wisdom of women, and wisdom is the beauty of men. So you can, kind of play that out. It's a guy you're talking to who's playing a girl, deal with it. So you meet the prince, and this is where it gets really cool, because they get to go through the city as they're going to meet up with the prince, and they get to see all these different markets and such. You can even go through and explain everything about the city. They present it very, very, very well. As far as like paper lantern lights in the city, the streets are immaculately clean because the prince hates dirt, and you can see people are regularly patrolling the streets, prostrating themselves and quickly picking up everything as to not offend anybody. There's prayer flags of all colors that dance in the wind from every gable and roof. The heady scents mingles with the smells of unfamiliar cooked foods. Strange and unusual things are being sold at the shops. And do your people speak Tian? They even say it, even if you don't know the common tongue in Tianxia, which is not at all similar to Taldane, which is the common of Avestan. You can do linguistic checks to try and be understood with what you're saying. Me, John, you, Chua, whatever. You can try to convey what you are trying to ask for or buy and such from the many markets and stalls all around the city. And finally, it is a city. You've been traveling through the frozen wasteland, having all these goods and such, and now appropriate services where you can sell them to. So finally, this is the one place where there is going to be a sort of a lull where everyone's going through and trying to sell all their stuff. So you can introduce them to the tea houses if you want to introduce some geisha. So, no fuck of you, no fuck of me. You can kind of have a little fun with that. Chopsticks. Everyone there eats with chopsticks. So, using them incorrectly can cause great insult to one's hosts. And so there's a DC roll for that, a check for that, where you can try to attempt to use the chopsticks to eat with the appropriate dexterity check. Yes, I had actually Chinese tonight. It was quite good. So good. But yes, maybe that's the inspiration for why I did this video tonight. Crispy walnut shrimp. Oh my god. $13, but so damn good. I know it's expensive. So I only buy it once every couple of years. Entertainment. Street performances are common, or do a Gana high. Tight ropes over barrels, scorpions, dodging arrows and other missiles, wrestling and other martial arts displays. Maybe people are chopping through boards with hands, or feet, breaking stones with headbutts, punching walls, or balancing for hours over hot coals. So you can kind of give all this visualization to them as they're walking through, or over the subsequent days as they are distributing, acquiring, selling goods and such. But yeah, pushy traders, merchants that sell everything from porcelain to silk to tea to even stranger wares. Of course, you'll need the prince's permission if you perhaps offend him when you do eventually meet with him. Of course, everyone there is smiling faces, constantly smiling, always trying to never break that smile. Everywhere you go, they pass smiles, locals, anxious to please you, wishing to tell you anything that you ask. Even if they don't know the answers, they may just make up something to not seem impolite. So you can definitely convey all of that. I would suggest taking all the examples that do. Everything I'm saying is in the book. So I would follow this to the letter. Street food, the standard rice, of course, noodles, spicy soups. You can introduce all those things, such as horse sausages, fried milk, fried rabbit, tanghulu. When I said that in the group, one of the players in my group knew exactly what that was. So, I believe he's from China. Fuji something. I remember looking at, I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's kind of cool that we have someone from that area, so he can kind of smack me when I'm not pronouncing something right, or I kind of hear a sort of exasperation in excitement or something when he recognizes something that I've said. I can kind of get that sometimes, where I kind of introduce something, such as recently with these homebrews, and I can hear kind of a audible sort of jaw drop there. Sometimes I can kind of surprise these people. All my players. So local superstitions: touching a person with blonde hair brings luck for a day. Kissing one brings luck for a year. Never let a foreigner's shadow fall across your own. So of course they're all foreigners, so you can finally turn the tables on them. Stepping on or standing astride a threshold invites evil spirits inside. He who smiles wins smiles. Remember that one. Of course, strangers do not wear sword indoors or as decoration. And all strangers are relations to each other, so you can already see it can be very friendly. All those are just really, really great examples. Even for a GM who's not comfortable with sort of role-playing with dialogues and interactions between NPCs and PCs or other people and such, this is just a great tool to use that you can utilize, and you can make up for anything that you feel that you may not be strong with as far as conversations go. This gives you all the tools you need. All the descriptive sort of flavor is there for you. You can add how many much helpings of that you want, but they give you some things on gathering information as far as foreshadowing of events for the next couple books and such. But finally, forget all that nonsense where this is just about a dungeon, because now you get to meet the prince. This enormous wooden palace of the prince, as Chua hurries you inside, guards and groveling slaves. You really get the sense that this is a massive place where there's just hundreds of people bound in supplication and such. Sakai is known for his perpetual smile. He smiles as he eats. He smiles as he engages in polite conversation. He smiles as he amuses himself by personally beheading 7 people piled on top of one another with one blow of his katana. So you can already sense that he's a very firm ruler, but fair. Renowned for his etiquette, delicate words, and insatiable lusts. Particularly love for foreign women. There's a key point for you there for any women in your campaign. He may certainly fixate on such female characters present, or perhaps on a object or a magical item or artifact and such as maybe Sushin. So, the magical artifact katana. So, maybe you want to make him interested in men as well. So, if you don't have any women, you can certainly do that. But you'll find out he's quite a pouty prince when he doesn't get his way. Of course, he won't do this in front of you because that's very impolite, but behind the scenes he'll be very, very pouty, and of course he won't wish to see you, and of course he'll close all the shops and such if you perhaps insult him in any way. So it's fun to kind of mess with my group with that, as far as like the fixations of a board ruler. That he's not used to getting what he wants. So you can really roleplay that. Just a lot of elements there to kind of keep everyone with rapt attention, where no one kind of strays, or there's sort of a lull, or a moment where no one's paying attention to what's going on. It's a very good feel where everyone can actively participate. And that's where you get to the 5 Feasts of Hangul, where he introduces you to 5 days of feasts in honor of your arrival. And there's various lavish affairs, and this is really cool because there's all these challenges and such, and if you succeed, you get gifts and appreciation for your performance. Of course, he chastises his own people when they don't perform better than you, but you also get XP rewards for these as well. But of course, there are a series of checks that you have to perform. They are quite hard. I don't think any of my players actually completed all the events in a complete in just one feast. I think they won maybe 1 or 2, but for the most part, they didn't win that many. The skill checks are up there, and they probably should be. So I think they're pretty good where they're at. But the feasts themselves, it's just a lot of descriptive visualization there. You can really convey that to your group, where you have spicy duck heads, an ox forehead, a turtle casserole, pigeon brains, fried chicken feet, tiger and dragon and phoenix soup, which is made with cat, snake, and chicken meat. So you can already see you can get quite a bit of chuckling amid your group. There's quite a bit of humor in this, as you've probably already seen or heard of so far. There's scenes such as exhibitions with mounted archery, bareback horse racing, and wrestling. I don't know if you want to get John Cena on them or Triple H and put them into a pedigree, or throw them into a razor's edge for any of you wrestling fans or those that watched it during the WCW days. Yes, awesome stuff. So you can introduce a sumo for the wrestling part. They even have one provided here called Huck. There's the Feast of the Ancients. Steamed hangal, stone frogs, goose stomach, goat feet tendons, and wheat noodles, fish lips with celery, solidified duck blood, and drunken shrimp. A delicacy in which one dips live shrimp in alcohol before pinching off their heads and eating their flesh. There's some descriptive flavor for you. There's Shadow Puppet Theater. Very, very recognizable with Asian culture and such. I mean, it's just really, really good. Playing with stringed instruments, beautiful women. Here's a great one for you. One of the other feasts. 1,000-year-old eggs. Duck eggs coated with lime, ashes, and mud and soaked in horse urine for 100 days. Cow's lung soaked in chili sauce. For any of you chili fans. Pig's face, made by pouring hot tar on a pig's head to remove the hair but leave the skin intact. dried, deep-fried bee larva, duck feet marinated in blood. So, okay. Some strange stuff, yes. But yeah, they have all these different challenges and such where you can try to enlighten them of the West. And you can make a perform dance check, acrobatic check, intimidate check. You can amuse them. Let's see, there's another one where you have to prepare food, Apostani cuisine. So there's some interesting things on that. You do get reward items and experience and such. It was very hard for my players to do so, though. But you'll find out during the very last feast and such. He instructs them to have a dragon parade in honor of the visitors. So hundreds of brightly colored dragon costumes are paraded through the streets, and explosions of paper candles and festivities conclude. This is kind of where there's an attack of ninja, 5 storm ninjas. There was a great host of them, and that was a really great fight, as they use katanas and shurikens, and I would definitely have them use their potions of, cure serious wounds, potion displacement, and of course they tip their blades and such, and poison, so they get key points. So it's really great fights where it's really dragged out, and you really can slap the crap out of your party with them. But of course, the introduction of your newest ally, Miyaro, the Kitsune in disguise. Okay, there's going to be some spoilers in this video, so I apologize to any players who are checking this out, trying to petition their GM to play Jade Regent. This one's going to have lots of spoilers in it, unfortunately, as you've already kind of heard about. But I think it's needed to kind of convey just how important this book 4 is. So, you get Miyaro, who comes to your aid in battle. Beautiful NPC, just immaculately beautiful. Very unique, very great story. In the back of the book, it talks about her past and such. It's just really great. She can immediately kind of fit in with the rest of the NPCs. I even made, if you're doing the romance rules, I made an excellent mechanic for that. I customed the boon and the bane part of it, so the relationship score and what she gives if you happen to fall in love with her, of course. Of course, she's a great actress, as she has to pretend to kind of fit in with culture, since she's a agent of the kami in the forest of spirits. So she's an agent of them, and she's kind of lived in the forest most of her life and such, and it's hard for her to kind of know how people act. So you can, if you watch Star Trek or know about Star Trek, 7 of 9, the Borg in Voyager, that's kind of her personality, or that's how you can interpret it, or how I can try to explain it to you right now. She kind of she's not very comfortable, but she'll pretend, and she'll say the right things and such, but you can tell, if you really keenly observe her, you can tell that she doesn't know if she's saying the right things or not, and you can see her kind of fumble with some of her words, and you can see she's more comfortable in her own environment, away from people and such, where she really excels. So you can convey some of that sort of stuff, or you can change her out, her personality and such completely. But the romance would probably be a little bit of a challenge with her, just since her heart belongs to the forest. But Doesn't mean that she can't fall in love, doesn't mean that people don't change over time, and um, she's just gorgeous, so yes, she's a foxy lady. Kitsune, right? So I thought she was just as beautiful and captivating just as Amiko and perhaps maybe Shay Lilu, even though she can kind of come off as a little bit frigid, but elf, so there you go. But she introduces herself to the party and kind of inserts herself into there to kind of guide you to new mysterious allies that can kind of give you the sort of fighting chance, the edge, the sort of introduction to Minkai. Kind of fill in the rest of the answers, perhaps, that they may be searching for. So once you do finally leave or do again high, there's quite a bit of time you spend in there, just with the feasts and discussions and such with the prince and the buy and sell, and finally you get to make your way to the vast subarctic pine forest separating Minkai from the mainland and Tianzia. The Forest of Spirits is what I talk about. This is a really, really cool place. If you're familiar with Final Fantasy 3 or something, or 6, whatever version, Japanese, American, whatever version, that's done with Terra and Locke and Cecil and all that. The spirit haunted forest, and that one kind of conveys to me what the spirit of forest, the Forest of Spirits is in sort of Tianzia. So I kind of got a feel for that. I did play a little bit of music with that. It was quite nice. I kind of connected with that. But there are very dark things in this forest. They can be. Kami inhabit this forest, spirits, incorporeal creatures. They're a little bit different between an actual ghost and an actual haunt. There's something in between where they can possess a living host, and they are drawn to creatures living, and they can possess you, and they can either give you a bane or a boon, dividing on how evil or strange this creature may be. Usually positive energy will kind of force them out. But it's a very different thing, and there's quite a lot of them that they present, so you can choose to use all of them or some of them. I have a lot of great plans to introduce a couple that I've made on my own. Here's a spoiler, so Ben, if you're watching, tune away, or whoever in my group, until after book 4 is complete. I'm going to introduce the white hair witch archetype, the part with the hair that they get. I'm going to introduce that, where once they become possessed, they may age a little bit, their dark hair and such now becomes white, and they're able to manifest it. It grows out, and they can use it kind of like the white hair witch can. So I'm going to introduce that as a homebrew mechanic in there. That may be revealed during my game this week or next week, depending on when I feel it's needed. I started to kind of try and possess people with these spirits through random rolls, but now it ended up with the one fighter in the group with the lowest will save. I think he has the lowest. He keeps getting possessed. So it seems like I'm targeting him, but I'm not. So I may just have to kind of stop with the random rolls and just go with direct people, and maybe make a roll between 1 or 2 people and decide who gets possessed that hasn't been possessed yet, just so that everyone can experience that. Everyone has an equal chance to either gain a bane or a boon. So with those, there's certain things. What are spirits? Well, There's a perception check to notice when they manifest, otherwise they're invisible any other time. There's a will save to avoid the possession, but then there's an ongoing effect while it is merged with the host. And then they can either receive a bane or a boon from the spirit. Then there's a way to dismiss it through the positive energy, dispel spells, or other list effects that would be in the stat block that the PCs would not know, of course, unless they were to divine those answers by other means. Up to you, of course. But yeah, you can even, maybe like the White Witch hair ability, you can even, instead of their hair, you can make it as like living fabric that maybe has like a reach and can perform maybe certain combat maneuvers and such. So that's one thing that you can do. But yeah, as you enter the forest, you start to meet the kami, and you realize with them, they are guardians, protectors of their wards. Wards can be a person, to something as simple as a stone, or a tree, or a grove, or some sort of place or person in the forest that they have to watch over. Eventually, you would, or they would learn that, what Oni are when the kami fail to do or protect, or when they kind of turn to sort of like the dark side, kind of like Star Wars, they become Oni instead, or they kind of lust for the sins of the world. So you start to meet quite a few Onis and such. It's not just spirits and kami and such. You're going to run into some other creatures and such. But there's some consequences if the characters don't follow certain key events properly, where certain people may come after them. So it's really important that they kind of follow their own moral compass as it dictates them, and come to group decisions where everyone is kind of paying attention and puts their voice in, so that if something does happen, well, it's on them, and they can't point the finger at you if they weren't told of a specific sequence or a turning point in the story that could lead to darker events. You have to sort of handle the kami and the spirits and such. Not really spirits, but the kami. You have to be careful how they talk to them and such, how they treat them and such. If they're rash, arrogant, and destructive, then, the kami may come at them in force. But the kami are really cool. You can really present them really nice. They even have a way how to present them. But eventually, if the PCs don't contact the kami, Miyaro eventually leads you to them, and then you come in contact with them. You learn the stories and such. Now, just to kind of get into like the homebrew parts of it, what did I introduce? Well, I recently picked up Heroes of the Jade Oath. It's a third-party publisher on a whim. I was in a mood to buy something, and I saw that, and I just kind of felt that maybe I wasn't fully utilizing every type of Oriental resource that I could. Even though everything is presented here very well, you have a lot to work with. I just wanted to make sure I didn't leave any stones unturned, because I was afraid of an opportunity to pass me by. Strangely enough, this entire adventure path so far, it's weird because, as with previous games in the past, over years and years ago, I'd always run something and then find out something fantastic that I didn't do, that came to my mind that I should have done. Or maybe this must be payback now, because every time I come across something or think of something, it's always just about game time, or just when something's about to happen, something just pops in my mind, just a flare of imaginative insight, and I kind of grab that, I use it, and it just works out well, and there's never a point where I kind of look back and go, oh, I should have done this, or maybe I should have done that. So, sort of picking up this Heroes of the Jade Oath on a whim. Very beneficial to me so far. I saw a new skill that they presented there called Feng Shui. You've heard that probably before with, interior design and such, or the word itself, where it means wind and water. This new skill is something I introduced that was taught by Miyaro, the Kitsune. Basically, it's a skill to use to reduce stress, recover more quickly from injuries, cultivate energy, gain luck, sense the unseen and unharmonious forces, such as the Oni and such, or spirits, become more resilient against ill fortune. They can use this to understand how the flow of energies like Chi and Jas, called luck, work and move through the environment. They can determine the best place to meditate, the best colors to wear, to what numbers are the most fortunate, like Chinese numbers and such, fortune cookies, how best to be harmonious to the flow of local energies around them. Since they spend some time with Miyaro in the forest, about a month or so is about the time that they'll spend there. Well, I think up till where you get to the dungeon anyway, will be about a month. So this is something that you can teach them. It's a new skill. It should be a class skill for all of them. And upon introducing this, you probably want to have them roll 1d3 dice, and whatever the number is, have them apply that to just Feng Shui skill only, to increase the ranks of it, so they can get the best chance to try and utilize that new skill. You really don't want to give them just one rank or wait till they level to use it. You probably just want to give them a little bit of a bonus as a part to catch up, and at least as they get subsequent levels, they can choose to put more points or ranks into that skill. And I will link this Google document so you can check it out. It's not exactly how it was presented in Heroes of the Jade Oath. I changed some things. I changed the table. I took some things out and introduced some other things in there, so it's not a direct representation of that. And what is it, really? Well, just to kind of go over it briefly here. They can reduce the amount of rest needed per day based on the DC of the roll. It could be by 1 hour up to 4 hours. Of course, they'll still need the recovery of their spells by at least doing some form of rest for 8 hours, but the actual part of rest can be reduced anywhere between 1 and 4 hours. So the rest of that time could be meditation or some other form of mental cultivation and flows of energy and such to kind of harness your chi. But based on some of those rolls, not only do you get a reduced amount in your sleep time, but you could gain like a +1 luck bonus to the next die roll made after gaining a full night's rest. You could gain a +1 bonus to the next saving throw, whether it be a disease, poison spell, or spell-like ability, or it could be a +1 to the DC of the ability. Lose myself here. Okay. Okay. +1 to the save DC of an ability the next time that ability is used. So these are all kind of one-off things that the next time you use it is when that is executed, when it is used, when it resolves. So the last one on there is once a day, sense the presence of unseen enemies within a 10-foot radius of their exact position, so which would be within 60 feet of the character. If an opponent is using stealth, to oppose that, you can use your Feng Shui check, add that to your perception check. That would normally be opposed by the relevant stealth check. So you get a slight bonus to try and sort of sense the unharmonious forces around you. So, you can introduce that. I thought that was really cool. Feng Shui. I've heard that before, and just like the tomes that I created in book 1, I wanted to kind of still reward, sort of kind of let them know that this is very important to me as much as important to them as it is for them. So I wanted to sort of reward them, also explore that culture some more, bring in sort of that Japanese sort of vitality, that freshness, where we both get to learn something, since it's a new culture that we get to experience. Let's bring some defining characteristics that we can learn from it as well. So that was one. There's another one you probably aren't going to use, but uniquely enough, I had a Tieflin party member who, of course, chose the campaign trait to be tied to Amiko as the younger brother who was the adoptive brother. And of course, I made him directly related to Anamaron, the main, or one of the main bad people in the campaign. Anamaruman. So since he chose, strange enough, since he chose a Oni type of Tiefling, that fit right into the damn story of particularly the Jade Regent himself. So because of that, he is one of Anamaran's Tiefling grandchildren. Anamaran sought the means to sire half-being children and Tiefling grandchildren, currently deeming that Oni-blooded Tieflings would fall outside the laws of golden perfection, and could thereby further his goals in Menkai. So, he particularly wanted to play Miyaro in the game, so just through book 4, which I was really cool with because kind of gave me a free spot, and I like to let them play the NPCs sometimes, such as with modules that I introduce. So I let him be the guide. Since he's from China, he could probably, or Japan, I should know this, but I forgot. So, of course, it's like Frank the Tank, I'm starting to forget stuff now. I'm losing my brilliant moment, but, he could, probably bring out some of that, culture adaptation. And so, since he wanted to play Miyaro, I had his character, the Tiefling, get very, very sick while he was in the forest. There was a lot of, it was hard for him to walk. He felt fatigued, he felt sickened. It's like the forest of spirits was weighing down upon him, and because they couldn't tell the difference, I'll just read the story here that I basically wrote for him. I introduced the old man. He is featured in the bestiary section of Book 5 of Jade Regent. He's basically the herald of Irori. If you watch Kill Bill, Volume 2, there's that old guy that just beats the shit out of the girls who are training there. So I kind of took that as this character was a representation of that. Someone who's just simple, looks very frail, looks very old, can just shit kick you to death. Of course, he's a monk with very powerful abilities and such, but of course, I connected with him kind of like in Dragonlance with Fizbin the Fabulous. So, I kind of recognized that, and I kind of wanted him to be with the group momentarily while they were going through the Forest of Spirits. Maybe he would meet up with them a few more times, such as Fizbin did, if you're aware or have read the Dragonlance or have heard about that character and such. I kind of use a little bit of that and kind of that sort of quirkiness, sort of maybe Haposai from Ranma, just this old man who can be cranky, but other times very sort of words of wisdom flow from him freely, and maybe a guide or a teacher. Maybe he teaches Amiko the role that she'll have to eventually come into. You can also use him to teach the Feng Shui skill or anything else you decided that you want them to learn. He could be a great teacher and mentor to maybe particular classes that people have chosen to be. So, here's a brief little story I wrote based from the old man to the tiefling character. Moran sought the means to sire half-fiend children and tiefling grandchildren, correctly deeming that only blooded tieflings would fall outside the laws of golden perfection, and could thereby further his goals in Minkai. I should probably say this in more of a Tien sort of theme. Your current element is no random happenstance. The blood of Alamoran is the reason. It is a curse. Not now, turtle. Before I lose sight of insight and precious words therein. The forest was once his prison. As such, the forest does not recognize that you are Anamuranan. The forest bears down upon you the goddess Shiruru's blessing and divine mandate, unleashed from the Siguana seal from long ago. Yet, you stand before me as Amaterasu scion. I believe I can petition the gods, and in so doing, I can teach you to harness the spiritual pressure to use as a weapon. So, maybe that's a pathetic voice there, I don't know. Sometimes I can keenly get it, sometimes I fall short, so sorry if that frustrated you. So, the old man says these words to him, and I introduce sort of a bleach ability, if you're familiar with the anime, since the weight of the Forest of Spirits is down upon him. They can't tell the difference between this one-time evil warlord, now turned Oni, leader of the Five Storms. They can't tell the difference between him and the Tieflin, since they have the same blood that course through their bodies. So the laws, the golden mandates and such by the gods, this forest used to be his prison, so there the full force of the forest is down upon him. He can feel the spiritual pressure. So the old man petitions the gods, and he teaches the tiefling how to harness the spiritual pressure to use as a weapon. I like Bleach. I got a couple of shirts. I watch the animes. They're great. Of course, they get a little involved in episodes 732. I mean, so you gotta have some patience and some dedication for that, but good stories. So I introduced the Reiastsu. It's an extraordinary ability that he can use once a day, based from the training of the old man. So feeling the full weight of spiritual pressure, Reiastsu, while in the forest of spirits, you endured and have learned to turn your prolonged element back on others through the tutelage of the old man, while focused. This technique causes your spiritual energy, Ryoryuku, to unleash and forcibly weigh down on others, and can even attack those around you by releasing your focus in a sudden explosion of spiritual energy. So what are the mechanics behind that? Well, the benefit: the character can cause any creature within range to move more slowly, treating all spaces as difficult terrain unless they can make a will saving throw, which is DC 10 plus half the character level plus the wisdom modifier. This range of this ability is 30 feet. The effect lasts for half your character level, by which time you expend all of your focus, causing the field to collapse. All creatures within range suffer 46 points of force damage, unless they can make a will saving throw, DC 10 plus half the character level plus the wisdom modifier, in which case they suffer only half damage. So he can turn the spiritual energy, this pressure, back on them, make it harder for them to walk as they kind of move through this forceful field, maybe windswept winds and such, maybe the spiritual force that they can feel. So it takes them longer to walk through, and then he collapses the field, and it's just like a sort of a sonic-like effect, a forceful effect that pushes out, vibrates out, very violently. And then any creatures who meet his gaze during this time of this forceful pressure must make a fortitude save DC 10 plus half the character level plus the charisma modifier, or be paralyzed for 1d4 rounds. Those who can save will not be affected again for that day. And then, of course, you can activate or suppress this ability as a free action with a range of 30 feet during this point of when he uses this Reiastsu ability. So, kind of like with Renji, from Bleach, or the other characters from that. I'm forgetting the one main character's name there. Damn, what the hell is his name? Orange yellow hair. I should know this too. I feel so embarrassed and ashamed for not knowing this. Oh well. Okay, before this, I see this video is almost an hour long now, so wow, this is gonna be a big one. Okay. So I will put a link to this if you perhaps have a tiefling character who you decide has the blood of the bad guy, and you sort of use this sort of thing as to what his current ailment is within the Forest of Spirits. You can introduce this if you want or not, whatever. So those are a couple of the homebrew things. I have a couple things I'm still messing around with, but of course I know they'll come to me most likely when it's time to introduce the great reveal. So back to wasting your time or not wasting your time, you decide, of course. Back to the PDF that I have here. Finally, you agree to go investigate this House of Withered Blossoms, which was sort of the place where only the Five Storms, their prison. Akami asks you to go there. There's something really you have to retrieve from them. And okay, a pagoda. Okay, cool. Sure, we'll go there. We'll be right back. Nope, not gonna happen. You go there, and you find out that it's multi-layered dungeon beneath subterranean levels, reminiscent of like a Zelda game. Level 1, level 4, level whatever, up and down. So the pagoda has this feeling of like a Bruce Lee movie, where there's these different levels, different adversaries on those levels. You get to meet the Araneas, the spider-like creatures. Those are fucking cool. They even present things in a book, how they fight, their tactics and such. It's fantastic. Let me see if I can get to them real quick. It's really cool, really cool. They have this web sling, kind of like Spider-Man. And as far as a homebrew technique, maybe you want to make, if you decide, you can make some bracers to kind of maybe make a Spidey like. As corny as that sound, but maybe you're a fan. Spider-Man, I know I definitely watched the hell out of that crap. I've watched the cartoons and I had a few comics and such. So, of course, my daughter, my 6-year-old daughter, is into Spider-Man, had a costume and everything. So, maybe you want to introduce some sort of Spidey web slinging character, maybe an item or something, wondrous item. Maybe the Araneas were holding for maybe one day a prodigal student, something that was heralded to return to them or something. You can kind of introduce an item that kind of uses some of these techniques. But back to the Aranea, they get web slinging. They get this attack called Angry Fallen Leaves, where they drop to the floor suddenly, treat as a fallen object and crash into opponents. Make melee touch attacks. There's also this one called Attack of the Lotus Whirlwind, where they spin as they descend, kind of like Bruce or Jet Li thing, where they're falling down with this fabric and they're just spinning down instead of directly falling. And they can use that as part of their charge. There's this Grateful Descent, the Flying Blade, where you can swing with their webs and such. So instead of just using just the Aranea, I'm sorry if I'm not saying that right, the bestiary stats, they went out of their way to present flourishing type of moves that the spider-like creatures can use. So, really cool for one part of the pagoda. And real quick, haha! No, I forgot that guy's name still from Bleach. Damn it! Oh, damn it! Okay, so what else do I want to talk about? Okay, when you get to the pagoda, it's just a pagoda. It feels like they left something out, which of course they did. you don't really get any sort of environment descriptors of the outside. Where are all the enemies? Where's the combatants? Where's the doorkeepers or whatever? Why is there no activity outside of the House of Withered Blossoms? Well, they didn't have enough room to fit that in, so they had to take it out. But luckily, the contributors posted that on the Paizo forums. So if you want a description of what the outside area is of the pagoda of Withered Blossoms, you can go onto the Paizo forums, look that up. I can even direct link it to make it easier for you, perhaps. Where you can introduce some of those things. You'll meet things like phase spiders, which are really cool. I really didn't get to run those before, and I know I've heard of them. I've seen people use them and such, but finally I get to introduce it to a group that wasn't really aptly known to them and such, so it was cool to be able to use those, and they had those in there. As far as other additional content, unpublished content, they had a couple descriptors for certain areas, certain rooms and such, so that was really cool. Certain things that you can find, like items and such, so you don't have to sit there and try to make up your own stuff. You can directly import the unpublished content and use that for what's around the pagoda, and then you can get back to the actual book, the published part of the book, and then go through with what's on that. So you can choose to use that or not. You probably also want Ichigo. I remember that fucking name now. And if you notice the typing on the keyboard, you would know I had to look that up. So, I fooled you, but in light of that, there was a truth that I revealed to you. So, back to the thing. Back to the damn book. So you can choose to use that or not use that, but back to the pagoda. Withered Blossoms. Some great traps, names for them, like Storm of Rain and Shuriken traps. There are traps all over the place. It's great. It's fantastic. There's a lot of different creatures here. You didn't really get this dungeon-like feel until now, throughout all the books. I mean, maybe there was that in book 2, as I like to call it, German compound, Ravenskrog, or Ravenskrag, whatever. There was a little bit of that felt there. But you really get it here, where it's a classic sort of a dungeon feel to it, with multi-levels. So it's going to be quite fun to ride on in the midst of it as we speak. Just all the sort of overwhelming sighs that I heard from the group when they realized this wasn't just a simple place, that this was going to be, they were going to be here for a little bit. Of course, they were excited to do it, but they just the surprise with it was fantastic. So you get these great spider creatures. Of course, right when you get in there, there's an option to go up or down, up or down. There's something will happen differently, perhaps, if you go one way or the other. It doesn't matter. You'll find out that there's two opposing factions. One thinks that someone has something, and one wants what they have, and the other one's just too lazy to leave, so or move on or whatever. So you get to find out about these two different warring factions as you're kind of in the middle of it. You can choose to pick a side or not pick a side, or obliterate everyone, genocide or whatever, decimate everything there. But there's some really great characters here. Some of the artwork here is pretty cool, such as a sumo guy eating a spider from his mouth, a geisha with like a black face, not that they're doing blackface or anything, but just instead of a white veil on their face, it's black, so it's an inverse of what you would typically expect of a geisha. There's some of that there. Of course, there's Oriental classes featured here, which are really cool. There's just a lot of stuff. you really gotta kind of manage what's around and kind of be aware of it. Especially if like they alert other people from different rooms, you're gonna have to have them rush in. You're gonna have to keep track of the exact placement of the traps and such. Be aware when those would go off, and keep track of people who aren't perceiving things. So there's a lot of elements for surprise here. That's what I love about dungeons, and what I'm really gonna enjoy with Shattered Star. I mean, yes, there's a lot of dungeons, but they're fun as hell to run. There's so much, and it's like mega dungeons there, but I really like the dungeons. It's just fun. It's just as fun as if you're exploring the wilderness and such. You get to every turn and twist and whatever. There's always a surprise or something to expect, and the way you react in that environment can change the whole damn floor where everything's flooding in or whatever. Just cool. It's just this constant sort of a edging sort of reveal. But yeah, there's some great things in here. Swarms and such. And, even some of the spirits that can possess people at strange and maybe unbeneficial times. Some of the stories on these people are pretty cool, such as the swine shogun that had a lot of flavor, very interesting to me. The maps are done really well too. Elementals and such that you wouldn't expect. Hope none of my group is watching this right now. Here's a reveal. Gorgons. Excellent. Excellent choice. You get nunchuck wielding hobgoblins and such. There's a host of hobgoblins here that are Tian themed, so you want to make sure you stick to those Tian accents and such. Barbarian, samurai, all that kind of stuff. Some really great breeds of people, like people who have spawned and are related to people. You kind of see that you kind of fight sort of a tier or procession of tiers of different siblings. So that's really cool. You get to learn quite a lot here. There's a lot of history, some reveals that you don't necessarily have to hear from the kami. Great creatures. There's a little bit of information on NPC relationships. But one thing you do want to keep track of is in the Paizo forums, usually for all the books, they will have like a GM reference where you can go in and look at those and see if anyone's found any errors as far as mechanics and such. There is an error in this book that I was able to recognize and I read and saw ahead of time. There's one item on the wondrous item or artifact or whatever page that each book has as like a page devoted to specific items that you would find, weapons, armor, and such. There's one in there that's priced wrong, so they make a note of that on the Paizo forums. So just look at the Book 4 GM reference for the Forest of Spirits, and it'll tell you that one of those items, they price it +1 higher than they should, so the price is going to be significantly less. So in case you're worried about managing the gold piece per character, wealth, whatever level, blah blah blah. But yeah, in the back of the book they give you some really great the character stories, the evil guys. They give you great insight, who they are, where they come from, how they developed, some opium addicts and such. More of that visualizing sort of adjectives and just great descriptors and such, and I just kind of fell in love with Miyaro and just her story and how she presents herself. Even the really evil person here, Munasukaru. She was pretty cool too. The treasures are pretty cool. There's the ecology of the kami listed in the back of the book. Talks about the kami, so you can kind of present them in the right way that you would feel. Talks about some of the ninja clans, which are cool, as you'll eventually get to those. Particularly with book 5, where this really badass ninja gaiden dude who's cool. Sorry for all this clicking at you here. They give you some caravan encounters and such. I use some of those for around the pagoda, particularly with the hangman grows. The caravan subsystem that we're using, it's going fairly well. As I discussed in the previous videos, I think book 1, of course, where I talked about that and how you can kind of use that and modify it and make it more of a group interaction rather than just one player doing the roles and everyone's kind of waiting for that to resolve. Just going off of some of that again. Kind of debating whether I should change those. Excuse me for a minute. Pepsi endorsement. Okay. I'm debating whether I want to change that up a little bit, just because the caravan's damage output still not so high. That's always been the problem. But of course, you supplement that with bringing in the PCs, or more importantly, the NPCs to fight with the caravan to bring it more of a climatic, cinematic battle. So, I was debating. I read something on the forums where one guy suggested maybe every other character, or every other caravan level, add a 1d6 onto the damage code, and then any other level, not that, where they would get the 1d6 in and just add a +1 to the end of that damage code, where it would all, you would add that up per level and stuff. Those would all stack. Cumulative, it should be the word, since that's one thing I see quite a bit for keywords use. I'm debating on whether to do that. So I would kind of change the rules a bit on the NPCs having to finish those fights in a timely fashion before the caravan took too much damage and was destroyed. So I have to consider that scenario, whether I want to increase the caravan damage output, thereby taking away the time crunch scenario of taking down the factions as fast as you can that would seek to destroy the caravan. So that's one sort of thought that you can use. Hopefully you've seen this before book 1. Before you do book 1, hopefully you check out this video where I just mentioned this thing about the caravan optional stat increase there that I just discussed, because maybe you want to use that in the very beginning. So another important reason why I say this is just as important as book 1. See, I had to get that in there, didn't I? Just to fight all those people that would say, no, it's not. So, yes, it is. It's a culture shock, and it's an introduction into the rest of the books in this line. The rest of the books, book 4, 5, 6, well, it's 4, but 5 and 6, and then continuing the campaign afterward, it's all going to be about Menkai and the TNZ flavor. So, it's really cool to see people get excited and people kind of become aware and learn. And it took so long to get here, and finally you get to introduce it. So it is very important. This book, very important to introduce, because it's the doormat to a doorway for the rest of the campaign with this particular theme, which you are denied from books 1 through 3, even though you, of course, experience some of the factions and maybe pick up a couple of the items, this is where you get to immerse yourselves completely in it. And I want my characters to kind of evolve. And the board word I'm looking for is add your consciousness to our own blah 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 collective. I want to add them to the Oriental collective there. Resistance does become futile. You can't escape the flavor, the imaginative flair that these next books introduce to you. I've read through them and it's quite exciting, and I'm so excited for the continuing campaign at the end of book 6. I'm ready for Bestiary 4, which should be out in October. I plan on using the Godzilla creature that they hinted about. One of my players has already talked about. I've already discussed in my group, and they want me to do this, so of course I will oblige them as I have everything else that they've made requests for, and do it in a revealing and surprising fashion. It's actually in the back of the continuing campaign adventure. They ask you to introduce this as a way to build back up the empire, as though all the Godzilla movies, it's something that is needed or required by. So I'm going to have fun introducing that, and you can't know some of my excitement and such with this video. I'm not stumbling around so much maybe, but I'm kind of really excited for tomorrow's reveal with Mythic Adventures, or whatever the rule book. So I plan on getting that tomorrow, so it's going to be another shock for me. Of course, bringing up this book, Mythic Adventures, I know it's not part of what this video can't talk now, video's about. There you go for fumbling and stumbling around. Like I said, I wasn't doing, but Mythic Adventures. Not really reading too much up on it, but looking at the play test book and such. Here we go again. Another option is why this would be just as important as book 1. You can probably introduce Mythic campaign, rule set or whatever, when your characters in book 1 become Amaterasu Scions, when they get that sort of supernatural vision, the sort of power that they are bound to. You can kind of use the mythic rules to maybe give them a mythic level, but of course you're going to have to, throughout the rest of the books, give some of the enemy factions the mythic tiers and such as well. So, not knowing too much about it though, it's just one thought that came to my mind. For any of those that are kind of checking these videos out ahead of time, and you happen to get your hands on the Mythic rulebook, that might be one interesting option to present to your players. But of course, as always, with any optional rules and expansions and such, just make sure that your players are going to deliver just as much attention and performance as you will to them. I know all about that crap. Just you give it your all and people let you down. I'm not talking about my current group, but local gaming groups in the past just sucked ass. So when they don't pull through, when they expect you to do all their work and then manage their player resources for them. So I might make a video one day describing the horrors of role-playing groups, what to avoid, how to make a beneficial and successful gaming group, which I'm currently just over a year now with, and just going strong and fantastic and successful as hell, and humbled and honored, and loyalty expressed by all. So Okay, now we're at an hour and 20 minutes, so sorry for taking up too much of your time, but there was a lot to discuss here. This was the most appealing book to me so far, and it really is one of those books that everyone is waiting to get to, because that is when you enter the whole point of deciding whether you want to play Oriental's type of campaign. So thank you for tuning into this. I hope this helps, and of course, as always, any questions, comments, whatever, please give them to me. I will do my best to try and answer anything you have. I hope the whole point of this is just to benefit other groups out there. I like to give back, because I also receive great information out there from people as well, whether it's from, the people who make the books to players who I don't even know, who respond to me and put my sort of thoughts on the right track, so to speak. So I love to give back to the community. So yeah, alright, I'm done wasting your time. Thank you very much for letting me waste yours. Alright, and my own. Okay, bye.